After a night with his mistress, Korean Mafia boss Billionaire found diamond ring and a note, saying goodbye. He woke up to find her gone, nothing left but a diamond ring on his pillow and a letter that would shatter his world. The woman he loved had vanished into thin air, and the most powerful man in Korea was completely powerless to stop her. What would you do if the person who finally made you feel human disappeared without a trace, leaving only a goodbye note and a promise to never return? Park Ji-hoon was the richest and most dangerous man in Seoul, Korea. He didn't just own tall buildings, fancy hotels, and companies all over the world. He controlled the entire underground network of Seoul. By day, he was CEO Park, the billionaire bachelor who appeared in magazines and business journals. By night, he was the Shadow King, the man who made decisions that could end empires with a single phone call. Every morning, he woke up in his massive penthouse with floor-to-ceiling windows, marble floors so shiny you could see your reflection, and a view of the entire city that bowed beneath his influence. At 32 years old, Ji-hoon had everything money and power could buy. Expensive cars that most people only saw in dreams, private jets that took him anywhere in the world within hours, closets full of custom-made suits that cost more than most people's yearly salary, an army of men who would die for him without question. Connections that reached into every corner of Korean society, from the police to the politicians to the prosecutors. But Ji-hoon had one problem that all his money and power couldn't fix. He was lonely. Desperately, achingly, so soul-crushingly lonely. In his world, trust was a commodity more valuable than gold. And love? Love was a weakness that could get you killed. Ji-hoon had dated many women over the years, but none of them truly loved him. They loved his money, his power, his influence. They wanted to be seen with him at exclusive clubs, wanted their pictures in society magazines, wanted the protection that came with being on his arm. But when Ji-hoon talked about his dreams, his fears, or the deep sadness he felt late at night when the city fell silent and he was alone with his thoughts, these women would yawn or check their phones or change the subject to something more exciting. His heart felt like an empty mansion, beautiful on the outside, but hollow and cold inside, with no warmth, no life, no one truly living there. One rainy evening in September, Ji-hoon attended a charity gala at the Grand Paradise Hotel. It was the kind of event he had to attend. All the important people in Seoul would be there, both from the legitimate world and his shadow world. He wore his most expensive black Tom Ford suit, smiled for the cameras with that practiced charm that made women weak and made men nervous, and wrote a check so large it made headlines. Even though he desperately wanted to go home, appearances had to be maintained. The ballroom was filled with Korea's elite, wealthy businessmen, corrupt politicians, underground bosses hiding behind legitimate fronts, and women dripping in diamonds that probably had blood on them somewhere down the line. Everyone was drinking champagne worth more than a car, talking about their luxury vacations and their second homes and their stock portfolios. Ji-hoon felt bored and suffocated. These people all wanted something from him, and he was tired of being constantly hunted. He decided to step outside onto the private balcony to get some fresh air and escape the phoniness that was choking him. That's when he saw her. Standing alone in the rain was a young woman with beautiful brown skin that seemed to glow even in the dim light from the ballroom. She wore a simple purple dress that was now completely soaking wet, clinging to her frame. Her curly black hair stuck to her face and neck. She was crying softly, her shoulders shaking with each sob, completely unaware that anyone was watching her. Ji-hoon's heart did something it hadn't done in years. It squeezed tight in his chest with an emotion he couldn't quite name. Without thinking, without calculating the risk or considering the consequences like he usually did, he grabbed his umbrella and rushed outside into the rain. "Miss, are you okay?" he asked gently, holding the umbrella over her head to shield her from the downpour. The woman looked up, startled, and Ji-hoon felt like he'd been punched in the stomach. She had the most beautiful brown eyes he had ever seen, like warm honey, like melted gold, like autumn sunlight. They were full of sadness and pain, but also strength and fire. This woman had been hurt, but she wasn't broken. "I'm fine," she whispered, but her voice cracked and betrayed her lie. Ji-hoon could read people. It was essential for survival in his world. He could tell when someone was lying, when they were scared, when they were planning to betray him. But this woman wasn't lying to manipulate him. She was lying because she was trying to be strong, trying to hold herself together. "You don't look fine," Ji-hoon said softly. "What happened?" The woman looked at him for a long moment, as if deciding whether to trust this stranger in an expensive suit. Something in his eyes must have convinced her, because the words started spilling out. "I lost my job today," she said, fresh tears mixing with the rain on her face. "I worked, as a teacher at an international school, and they shut down without warning. No severance, no notice, nothing. I don't know how I'll pay my rent next month or send money to my family back in America. I used almost all my savings to pay for my grandmother's medical bills last year, and now I'm almost broke." Ji-hoon felt his heart crack. In his world, people's problems usually involved rival organizations, betrayals, or violence. But this woman's problem was so simple, so human, so real. She needed money to survive, to help her family, to live. "What's your name?" he asked, genuinely wanting to know. "Lily," she said softly, wiping her eyes with the back of her hand. "Lily Thompson, I came to Korea 2 years ago to teach English and chase my dreams of experiencing a new culture. But now everything is falling apart. I don't know what I'm going to do." Ji-hoon did something he never did, something that would shock everyone who knew him. He sat down on the wet balcony steps next to her, completely ruining his $10,000 suit. Rain soaked through the expensive fabric, but he didn't care. "Tell me about your dreams, Lily," he said. "And if you're already feeling something for these two souls who are about to collide, do me a favor, hit that like button right now, because what happens next will absolutely wreck you in the best way possible, and I need to know you're ready for this journey. Subscribe so you don't miss what happens when their worlds inevitably crash together. Share this with someone who believes in love that breaks all the rules." For the next 2 hours, Lily talked, and Ji-hoon listened. She told him about growing up in Atlanta, Georgia, about her grandmother who raised her single-handedly after Lily's parents died in a car accident when she was 8 years old, about her love for books and teaching children, watching their eyes light up when they finally understood something difficult. She talked about how she had saved money for 3 years, working 2 jobs, to afford the flight to Korea because she had fallen in love with Korean culture through music, dramas, and food. She told him about the tiny apartment she rented in a modest neighborhood, how she would practice Korean with the ajumma who ran the convenience store on the corner, how she'd gotten lost on the subway so many times in her first month that she cried out of frustration. She talked about the joy of finally making Korean friends, of learning to make kimchi, of hiking the mountains surrounding Seoul and feeling free for the first time in her life. Ji-hoon listened to every single word, feeling more alive than he had felt in years. This woman didn't know who he was. She had no idea she was sitting next to one of the most powerful and dangerous men in Korea. She didn't care about his money or his influence or his connections. She just needed someone to listen to her, to see her pain, to acknowledge that she mattered. For Ji-hoon, who lived in a world where every word was calculated, where every conversation was a negotiation or a threat or a manipulation, Lily's honest vulnerability was like oxygen to a drowning man. When Lily finally stopped crying and her words slowed down, she looked at Ji-hoon and really saw him for the first time. She noticed his kind eyes, his gentle smile, the way he had listened without interrupting or judging. "I'm so sorry," she said, embarrassed now. "I just cried all over a complete stranger. You probably think I'm insane. You were probably trying to enjoy the party and I ruined your evening with my problems." Ji-hoon smiled, a real, genuine smile that reached his eyes, and the kind of smile he hadn't given anyone in longer than he could remember. "I think you're brave," he said, meaning every word. "Coming to a new country alone, chasing your dreams, keeping going even when everything is hard. That's not insane. That's beautiful. That's strength." Something magical happened in that moment. Their eyes met and held, and both of them felt electricity run through their bodies like lightning. It was like the world stopped spinning just for them. The rain kept falling, the city lights twinkled in the darkness below, and two desperately lonely hearts found each other in the middle of the storm. "Can I buy you dinner?" Ji-hoon asked, surprising himself with how much he wanted her to say yes. "I know a quiet place nearby where we can dry off and get warm. And you said you haven't eaten all day. Lily hesitated. Her grandmother had always warned her about talking to strangers, especially in a foreign country. But something about this kind man with the gentle voice and sad eyes made her feel safe. Her instincts, which had kept her safe for 26 years, told her she could trust him. Okay, she said finally. But I have to warn you, I'm really, really hungry. I haven't eaten since yesterday morning. Ji-hoon laughed, a sound that surprised even himself. He couldn't remember the last time he had truly laughed, with real joy and no calculation behind it. They went to a small Korean restaurant 3 blocks away. Not one of Ji-hoon's high-end establishments where he held business meetings and made deals, but a family-owned spot with plastic chairs, fluorescent lighting, and absolutely delicious food. And the kind of place Ji-hoon would never normally go to, but it felt right for this moment. Ji-hoon ordered everything on the menu: bibimbap, bulgogi, kimchi jjigae, japchae, tteokbokki, Korean fried chicken, and sweet hotteok pancakes for dessert. Lily's eyes went wide with shock. This is way too much food. We'll never finish all of this. We'll take home whatever we don't finish, Ji-hoon promised, enjoying her amazement. You said you're hungry, so eat whatever you want. As they ate, they talked more. Ji-hoon told her about his life, but he carefully edited the truth. He said he worked in business and investments, which wasn't technically a lie. He told her about losing his parents when he was 15 years old. His father killed by a rival organization, his mother dying of heartbreak 6 months later. He told her about being raised by his strict grandfather who had built an empire through ruthless determination and had expected Ji-hoon to be even stronger, even more ruthless. He told her how lonely he felt, how he was surrounded by hundreds of people every day but felt completely alone. How everyone wanted something from him: his money, his influence, his protection, his approval. How he couldn't remember the last time someone had asked him how he was feeling and actually cared about the answer. Lily reached across the table and held his hand. Her touch was warm and soft and sent electricity through his entire body. I understand, she whispered. Loneliness is the worst feeling in the world. Worse than hunger, worse than fear, worse than anything. Because you can be in a room full of people and still feel completely alone. They stayed at that little restaurant until it closed at midnight. The owner, a kind old woman with silver hair and laugh lines around her eyes, smiled at them like they were young lovers. You two look good together, she said in Korean, her eyes twinkling. Like you were meant to find each other. Ji-hoon blushed, but didn't translate for Lily, keeping that sweet observation to himself like a secret treasure. When they finally left, Ji-hoon walked Lily to her small apartment in a modest neighborhood that he would normally never visit. He noticed everything: the cracked sidewalks, the flickering streetlight, the rust on her building's entrance. He made mental notes without even realizing it, his strategic mind already calculating how he could help her without revealing who he really was. Thank you for tonight, Lily said at her door, looking up at him with those incredible eyes. You made the worst day of my life feel a little better. You reminded me that there are still kind people in the world. Ji-hoon didn't want the night to end. He wanted to keep talking to her forever, to learn everything about her, to protect her from every bad thing in the world. Can I see you again? He asked, trying to sound casual but knowing his voice betrayed his hopefulness. Lily smiled, and it was like watching the sun come out after a terrible storm. I'd like that. Maybe you can show me more of Seoul? I've been here 2 years, but I mostly just go between my apartment, the school, and the grocery store. I haven't really explored. It would be my honor, Ji-hoon said, bowing slightly in the traditional Korean way. Lily giggled at his formality, the sound like music. Without thinking, acting on pure impulse, she stood on her tiptoes and kissed his cheek. It was just a soft, quick kiss, barely more than a brush of lips against skin. But Ji-hoon felt like fireworks exploded in his heart, lighting up all the dark places. He touched his cheek in wonder, feeling the spot where her lips had been, as Lily disappeared into her building with a shy smile and flushed cheeks. The next 3 months were the happiest of Ji-hoon's entire life. Every single day after finishing his business, both legitimate and underground, he would rush to meet Lily. His right-hand man, Min-seok, noticed the change immediately. Boss, you're smiling, Min-seok said one day, shocked. I've worked for you for 10 years and I've never seen you smile like that. Who is she? Someone special? Ji-hoon said simply, and refused to elaborate, protecting Lily even from his own people. He showed Lily all the beautiful places in Seoul that tourists never saw. They walked through quiet temples where monks prayed in peaceful meditation, their chants echoing in the mountain air. They hiked up Bukhansan Mountain at dawn to watch the sunrise paint the sky in oranges and pinks and golds. They ate street food from vendors who made the best tteokbokki and hotteok in the city, and Lily would get sauce on her face, and Ji-hoon would gently wipe it away, treasuring these simple moments. Ji-hoon still hadn't told Lily who he really was. When she asked about his job, he just said he managed business operations and investments. It wasn't a lie, exactly, but it wasn't the whole truth either. He told himself he would tell her eventually, when the time was right, when he was sure she loved him for who he was and not what he had. With Lily, Ji-hoon felt normal for the first time since he was a child, before his father's death pulled him into the shadow world. He wasn't CEO Park or the Shadow King or Korea's most dangerous man. He was just Ji-hoon, a guy who liked spicy food, old movies, long walks in the rain, and the sound of Lily's laugh. Lily taught him how to see beauty in simple things, a perfect cup of coffee in the morning, a funny cat video that made them both laugh until their stomachs hurt, the way autumn leaves turned gold and red and orange and created carpets of color in the parks. And she had a gift for finding joy everywhere, even in a city that could be harsh and cold. One Saturday, Ji-hoon took Lily to Lotte World Amusement Park. He had his people rent the entire park for the day, telling Lily they were just lucky to come on a slow day, and it was practically empty. They rode every single roller coaster screaming and laughing like teenagers. They ate cotton candy until their stomachs hurt and their teeth felt fuzzy with sugar. They took silly photos in the photo booth, making ridiculous faces and holding bunny ear signs over each other's heads. They won stuffed animals at the carnival games. Ji-hoon was suspiciously good at shooting games, which should have been a clue, but Lily was too happy to notice. On the Ferris wheel. As they reached the very top, and could see all of Seoul spread out below them like a glittering carpet of lights, Ji-hoon held Lily's hand. I have something to tell you, he said nervously, his heart pounding like he was about to go into battle. I'm falling in love with you, Lily. Actually, I think I already fell. I think I fell that first night in the rain. Lily's heart started beating so fast she thought it might jump out of her chest and fly away. I'm falling in love with you too, she whispered. I never thought I'd find someone who understands me like you do. Someone who sees the real me. They leaned toward each other and their lips met in their first real kiss. It was soft and sweet and perfect and tasted like cotton candy and hope. When they pulled apart, both of them had tears running down their faces. Happy tears. Overwhelmed tears. Tears of relief at finally finding someone who felt like home. I want to be with you forever, Ji-hoon said, meaning it more than he'd ever meant anything. I don't care that we come from different countries or different backgrounds. You're my home now, Lily. You're where I belong. But Lily had a secret too. She hadn't told Ji-hoon that her visa was expiring in 1 month. She had tried desperately to find another teaching job, sending out dozens of applications, but without success. The school closure had created a flood of foreign teachers looking for work, and there weren't enough positions. Her visa was tied to her employment, and without a job, she would have to leave Korea and return to America. Every day, this secret felt heavier in her heart, like a stone she was carrying. She wanted to tell Ji-hoon, but she was terrified. What if he stopped loving her when he knew she was leaving? What if this perfect dream ended? What if telling him shattered this beautiful bubble they'd created? So she stayed silent and tried to memorize everything. The way he smiled at her. The way he held her hand. The way he said her name like it was something precious. As the weeks passed, Ji-hoon and Lily became even closer. They started staying at each other's apartments, cooking dinner together. Lily teaching Ji-hoon how to make Southern American food, while he taught her Korean recipes. They would fall asleep in each other's arms, and Ji-hoon loved waking up next to Lily, seeing her curly hair spread across his pillow like a halo, watching her sleep peacefully without the worries that lined her face during the day. Lily loved how Ji-hoon held her tight all night, even in sleep, like he was afraid she might disappear. She loved the little things, how he always made sure she walked on the inside of the sidewalk, how he remembered that she liked extra honey in her tea, how he listened when she talked about her students with genuine interest. They shared everything: their hopes for the future, their fears about the past, their dreams of what life could be. Everything except their two big secrets: Ji-hoon's true identity and power, and Lily's expiring visa. One evening, Ji-hoon's best friend and second-in-command, Min-seok, called him in a panic. "Boss, we have a problem. The press found out you're seeing someone. They're trying to figure out who she is. Reporters are digging. What, you need to tell her the truth about who you are before she sees it on the news or reads it online. If she finds out from someone else, she'll never trust you again." Ji-hoon's blood ran cold. He had been so happy living in this bubble with Lily that he had let his guard down. He had forgotten that in his world, privacy was an illusion and secrets always came to light. That night, he planned to tell Lily everything over dinner. He was going to come clean about his business empire, his underground connections, his real power and influence. He was terrified she would run, but he knew Min-seok was right. She deserved the truth. But when Ji-hoon arrived at Lily's apartment with flowers and her favorite chocolate, the expensive kind she only let herself buy once a month, he found her crying on the couch, surrounded by packed boxes. "Lily, what's wrong?" he asked, rushing to her side and kneeling in front of her. "Baby, what happened?" Through her tears, Lily told him everything. Her visa was expiring in 1 week. She had to leave Korea. She had tried everything to stay, applied for dozens of jobs, contacted immigration lawyers who all said the same thing, even looked into graduate school programs but couldn't afford the tuition. Nothing had worked. "I have to go back to America," she sobbed, her whole body shaking. "I'm so sorry I didn't tell you sooner. I was scared and stupid and I didn't know how to say it. I didn't want to lose you." Ji-hoon felt like someone had reached into his chest and crushed his heart in their fist. He had finally found the love of his life, the woman who made him want to be better, who saw past his money and power to the man underneath. And now she was leaving. "No," he said firmly, his voice strong and commanding, the voice he used when making decisions that couldn't be questioned. "No, I won't let you go. Marry me, Lily. Marry me, and you can stay in Korea. We can be together forever. We can build a life here." Lily looked at him with wide, shocked eyes. "Ji-hoon, we've only known each other 3 months. That's crazy. And besides, I can't let you marry me just so I can stay in the country. That's not fair to you. What if you regret it?" "It's not just for the visa," Ji-hoon insisted, getting down on one knee right there in her messy living room, surrounded by boxes and packing tape and the evidence of her leaving. "I love you, Lily Thompson. I want to wake up next to you every morning for the rest of my life. I want to have babies with you and grow old with you and argue about what to watch on TV and make you laugh when you're sad. Please marry me. Please stay." Lily's heart was simultaneously breaking and healing. She loved Ji-hoon so much it physically hurt, like her chest was being squeezed. But she also knew something he didn't know. She had done research online, curious about his business, and she had discovered who he really was. She knew he was CEO Park Ji-hoon, one of Korea's richest men. She knew his company was worth billions. She knew he came from one of Korea's most powerful families, and through careful digging and reading between the lines of news articles, she had started to suspect that his business dealings weren't entirely legitimate. She had seen photos of him with men who had reputations. Eo had read about rival organizations that mysteriously fell apart when they opposed Park Industries. She knew their worlds were so different they might as well be from different planets. "I can't," Lily whispered, tears streaming down her face like rivers. "Ji-hoon, I know who you really are. I know about your company, your family, your money. I'm just a regular girl from Atlanta who teaches English and can barely pay her rent. Your family will never accept me. The media will destroy me. We live in completely different worlds. It would never work." "I don't care about any of that," Ji-hoon shouted, his own tears falling now, his careful control shattered. "None of it matters without you. Don't you understand? You're the only real thing in my entire life." But Lily shook her head sadly, her decision made. "It matters, Ji-hoon. It matters more than you think. I need time to think. Please, just give me a few days to process this. Please." Ji-hoon left that night with a broken heart. stumbling to his car like a wounded animal. He didn't sleep, didn't eat, just stared at the ceiling of his penthouse, wondering how everything had fallen apart so fast. His empire, his power, his money, none of it could fix this. For the first time in his adult life, Park Ji-hoon was completely powerless. Meanwhile, Lily made the hardest decision of her life. She loved Ji-hoon more than she had ever loved anything or anyone, but she also knew that love sometimes means letting go. She knew that if she stayed and married him out of desperation to remain in Korea, she would always wonder if his proposal was real love or just his way of keeping her. She knew the pressure from his family, from Korean society, from his dangerous world would eventually break them both. She knew that she would always be the American teacher he married for a visa in people's eyes. She would always be the outsider, the foreigner, the one who didn't belong. And eventually, Ji-hoon might resent her for it, might look at her and wish he had married someone from his own world, someone who could stand beside him without causing scandal. So Lily decided to leave quietly, without saying goodbye, to make it easier for both of them. To give him a clean break so he could move on and find someone appropriate, someone who belonged in his world. If she loved him, and she did, desperately, then she needed to set him free. 3 days passed and Ji-hoon gave Lily the space she had asked for, even though every hour felt like torture. But on the fourth day, he couldn't wait anymore. The thought of losing her was driving him insane. He went to the most exclusive jewelry store in Seoul and bought a ring. Not the biggest or most expensive one. He knew Lily would hate something flashy. Instead, he chose a simple platinum band with a single perfect diamond that sparkled like starlight. It reminded him of Lily, not showy, but absolutely beautiful, pure and genuine and rare. He put the ring in a small velvet box and wrote a letter, pouring his entire heart onto paper. He told Lily that he didn't care about his family's expectations or society's judgment or the differences in their backgrounds. He only cared about her. He promised to protect her from everything in his world, to keep her safe, to love her every single day for the rest of his life. That night, Ji-hoon went to his penthouse first to shower and change clothes before going to Lily's apartment with the ring and the letter. He wanted to look perfect for her, wanted everything to be right. But he got delayed by an emergency call from Mistress. A rival organization was making moves and needed immediate attention. The call lasted 3 hours, and Ji-hoon handled it with growing impatience, desperate to get to Lily. He didn't know that while he was stuck handling business, Lily was making her escape. Lily had packed everything she owned into 2 suitcases, 2 years of her life reduced to luggage. She cleaned her tiny apartment until it sparkled, left the keys with the landlord who looked at her sadly and said she would be missed. She wrote her own letter to Ji-hoon, her tears falling on the paper and smudging some of the words. She told him that she loved him more than life itself, more than her own dreams, more than anything she had ever loved. But that love sometimes means sacrifice. She told him to find someone from his own world, someone who could stand beside him in the spotlight without wilting, someone his family would be proud of, someone who wouldn't cause him pain or scandal or difficulty. She told him that these 3 months with him had been the best of her entire life, that he had given her the greatest gift, the experience of true, pure, unconditional love. She told him that she would carry him in her heart forever, that part of her would always belong to him, no matter where she went or what happened. Before leaving for the airport, Lily made one final stop at Ji-hoon's building. And the security guard knew her by now. She had been there so many times, and he let her go up without question, smiling at her kindly. She used the spare key Ji-hoon had given her weeks ago, when they had started staying at each other's places regularly. She wanted to see his home one last time, to memorize every detail so she could hold on to these memories when she was back in America, alone and heartbroken. When she walked into his penthouse, everything smelled like him. His expensive cologne, the mint tea he drank every night, the subtle scent of his laundry detergent. She saw his coffee mug still sitting on the counter from that morning, a book he was reading left open on the couch, his favorite blanket thrown carelessly over the arm of a chair. Lily's heart shattered into a million pieces. This could have been her home. This could have been their life together. But it wasn't meant to be. She placed her letter on his bed, right on his pillow, where he would see it immediately. Then she did something impulsive, something she hadn't planned. She took off the small diamond promise ring her grandmother had given her before she died, the only truly valuable thing Lily owned. It was a simple antique ring with a tiny diamond, but it had been in her family for 3 generations. It meant the world to her. She placed it next to the letter, wanting Ji-hoon to have something to remember her by, something real and precious, just like their love had been. "Goodbye, my love," Lily whispered to the empty penthouse, her voice breaking. "In another life, in another world, maybe we could have made it work. Maybe we were just born in the wrong place, at the wrong time. But I'll never forget you. Never." She walked out, got in a taxi, and headed to Incheon International Airport. On the plane, Lily pressed her face against the window and cried silently as Korea got smaller and smaller below her, until it disappeared completely into clouds and distance. She was flying back to Atlanta with nothing but her suitcases and a broken heart, leaving the best part of herself behind in Seoul. Meanwhile, Ji-hoon finally finished his emergency call. He grabbed the ring box and the letter he had written and practically ran to his car, driving to Lily's apartment faster than was safe, his heart pounding with anticipation and nervousness. But when he got there, the landlord told him she was gone. "She left this morning," the old man said gently, seeing the devastation on Ji-hoon's face. "Paid everything she owed, decleaned the apartment beautifully, and returned the keys. Said she was going back to America." "I'm sorry, young man." She seemed very sad. Ji-hoon felt the world tilt and spin around him. No, no, this can't be happening. He ran back to his car like a man possessed and drove home like a crazy person, breaking every traffic law, hoping desperately that maybe Lily had come to his place, that maybe she had changed her mind. When he burst into his penthouse, everything was quiet and still. Then he saw the letter on his pillow. Next to it, a small antique diamond ring sparkled in the light from the city below, catching the reflection of Seoul's lights and sending rainbow fractals across the white pillowcase. With shaking hands, Ji-hoon picked up the letter and read. "My dearest Ji-hoon, by the time you read this, and I'll be on a plane back to America. Please don't try to find me or stop me. This is the hardest thing I've ever done, but I know in my heart it's right. You are the most amazing man I've ever met. Kind, generous, loving, strong, and so much more than you probably even realize. You deserve someone who can stand in your world without shrinking, without being crushed by the weight of your name and your power. Someone your family will be proud of. Someone who won't cause you pain or scandal or difficulty. Someone who belongs. I'm just a simple teacher from Atlanta with big dreams but small means. I would only hold you back. People would always wonder why you chose me. They would say terrible things. They would look down on you. And eventually, you might start to believe them. You might start to regret choosing me. In these 3 months with you were the best of my entire life. You showed me what real love feels like. You made me laugh when I wanted to cry. You held me when I felt alone in a foreign country. You saw the real me. Not what I looked like or where I came from, but who I actually was inside. And you loved me anyway. I will carry you in my heart forever. Every single day I will think of you and smile, even through the tears. You gave me a gift I never thought I'd receive. The experience of being truly, deeply, completely loved. This ring belonged to my grandmother, the woman who raised me and taught me what strength looks like. It's the only valuable thing I own, and I want you to have it. When you look at it, please remember that somewhere in the world, there's a girl who loves you more than words can say, more than life itself. Be happy. Ji-hoon. Find love again with someone appropriate. Live a beautiful life. Build your empire. Be the man you were meant to be. And maybe, in another life, we'll find each other again, and the timing will be right. All my love, forever and always." Lily Ji-hoon collapsed on his bed, clutching the letter and the ring, and cried like he never cried before. Not when his father died, not when his mother followed, not through all the violence and betrayal and darkness of his life. He cried for Lily, for himself, for the future they would never have. He cried until he had no tears left, until his chest hurt, and his eyes were swollen and his throat was raw. Then, slowly, his sadness transformed into something else. Determination. Fire. Anger at himself for being a coward, for not telling Lily the truth from the beginning, for not fighting harder. So for letting her leave without making her understand how much she meant to him. Ji-hoon stood up, still holding Lily's grandmother's ring. He looked at his own ring, the one he had bought for her, still perfect in its velvet box, waiting for the finger it was meant for. No, he said out loud to his empty penthouse, his voice rough but strong. This is not how our story ends. I don't care how long it takes or what I have to do. I will find you, Lily Thompson. I will prove to you that our love is stronger than any obstacle. I will show you that you're not just some girl from Atlanta. You're my soulmate, my future, my everything. And I don't give up on my everything. For the first time in days, Ji-hoon smiled. It wasn't a happy smile. It was the smile of a man who had just declared war, on distance, on circumstances, on fate itself. He picked up his phone and called Min-seok. I need you to find someone for me. Lily Thompson, American, 26 years old, former English teacher. Find out where she went, where she's staying, everything. And clear my schedule for the next month. I'm going to America. Boss? Min-seok said carefully. Are you sure about this? Going to America? Leaving your business here? I've never been more sure of anything in my life, Ji-hoon interrupted. Without her, none of this matters. The business, the money, the power, it's all meaningless. She's the only thing that's real. Ji-hoon spent the next week preparing. He couldn't just rush to America without a plan. That wasn't how he operated. He was a strategist, a planner. So he planned the most important mission of his life. And he hired the best private investigator in Seoul to find out where Lily went. He learned she was staying with her aunt in a small house in Atlanta, working 2 jobs, one at a bookstore called Chapter and Verse, one at a restaurant called Southern Comfort, trying desperately to save money and get back on her feet. The investigator reported that she looked thin and tired, that she cried sometimes on her breaks, that she had lost the light in her eyes that made her so beautiful. This information made Ji-hoon's heart hurt, but it also strengthened his resolve. He also did something he should have done from the beginning. He talked to his grandfather. Chairman Park was 80 years old, strict and traditional, with a face like carved stone and eyes that missed nothing. He had built the Park Empire from absolutely nothing, starting as a poor orphan and rising through sheer ruthless determination to become one of Korea's most powerful men, both in legitimate business and in the shadows. He expected Ji-hoon to marry a woman from a powerful Korean family, to create alliances through marriage like people had done for centuries. When Ji-hoon told him about Lily, the old man was silent for a very long time. He sat in his chair in the study, hands folded, face unreadable. Finally, he spoke. You're willing to give up everything for this woman? Your reputation? Your position in society? Everything I built? Ji-hoon looked his grandfather in the eye without flinching, the way he had been taught. Grandfather, what good is having everything if I have no one to share it with? You taught me to be strong and successful and ruthless when necessary. Han, but you never taught me to be happy. Lily makes me happy. She makes me want to be a better man. Not a richer one. Not a more powerful one. Just better. Chairman Park stared at his grandson for a long moment. And for the first time in Ji-hoon's entire life, he saw tears form in the old man's eyes. You remind me of myself when I was young, the grandfather whispered, his voice cracking with emotion. I once loved a woman like that, a simple girl who worked in my father's kitchen. But I let my family pressure me into marrying someone appropriate, someone from a good family who would advance our position. I spent 50 years being successful and miserable. I had everything except the one thing that mattered: love. The old man reached out and gripped Ji-hoon's hand with surprising strength. Don't make my mistake, boy. Go get your woman. Bring her home, and anyone who has a problem with it will answer to me. With his grandfather's blessing, something he never thought he would get, Ji-hoon flew to Atlanta. He left Min-seok in charge of business operations, packed a single bag, and boarded his private jet with nothing but determination and hope. When he landed in America, everything felt strange and overwhelming. The signs were in English, the food was different, the people looked different, the energy was different. For the first time, Ji-hoon understood in a visceral way how brave Lily had been to come to Korea alone, to build a life in a completely foreign place with no support system. He found the bookstore where Lily worked. Chapter and verse. A small independent shop with worn wooden floors and that distinctive old book smell. Through the window, he saw her helping a customer, her beautiful smile lighting up her face even though he could see the sadness lingering in her eyes, the dark circles that spoke of sleepless nights. Ji-hoon's heart started racing. He was so nervous his hands were actually shaking, something that never happened. Not in business negotiations, not in dangerous situations, not ever. What if she turned him away? What if she told him to go back to Korea? What if she had already moved on? But he had come too far to turn back now. He walked into the bookstore and a little bell rang above the door, announcing his entrance. Lily looked up automatically to greet the new customer, and when she saw Ji-hoon standing there in his expensive suit, looking completely out of place among the old books and dusty shelves and cozy reading nooks, she froze completely. The book she was holding fell to the floor with a loud thump that echoed through the quiet store. Ji-hoon, she whispered, like she was seeing a ghost, like she couldn't believe he was real. What are you doing here? I came for you, Ji-hoon said simply, his voice steady even though his heart was pounding. I came to bring you home. Lily shook her head violently, tears already falling down her cheeks. Ji-hoon, no. I told you in my letter. This can't work. We can't. I don't care what you said in your letter, Ji-hoon interrupted, walking toward her with purpose. You were wrong, Lily. Wrong about everything. You said you would hold me back, but you're the only thing that's ever pushed me forward. You said I should find someone from my world, but you are my world. You said our love wasn't strong enough to overcome the obstacles. But I'm here to prove that it is. Other customers in the bookstore were staring at them now, sensing the drama, but Ji-hoon didn't care. He had spent his whole life caring what people thought, maintaining appearances, being strategic. Not anymore. Not about this. He got down on one knee right there in the middle of chapter and verse, pulling out the blue velvet box and opening it to show Lily the ring he had bought for her. Lily Thompson, he said loudly, his voice shaking with emotion but strong with conviction. I am CEO Park Ji-hoon, and yes, I'm rich and powerful and from a different world than you. But none of that means anything without you. You are the bravest, kindest, most beautiful person I've ever met. You taught me how to laugh again, how to love, how to actually live instead of just existing. I don't want to spend another single day without you. Will you marry me? Will you come back to Korea with me? Will you build a life with me? The bookstore was completely silent. Everyone was watching, holding their breath. Lily was crying so hard she could barely breathe, her whole body shaking. But your family, she sobbed. The press, the scandal, your reputation. My grandfather gave us his blessing, Ji-hoon said. He told me not to make his mistake. And I don't care about the press or scandal or my reputation. The only opinion that matters to me is yours. Do you love me, Lily? Yes, Lily cried, the word torn from her heart. Yes. I love you so much it hurts. I love you so much I can barely breathe without you. Then nothing else matters, Ji-hoon said firmly with absolute certainty. We'll figure out the rest together. You and me against the world. We'll face every challenge, every judgment, every obstacle side by side. Please say yes. Come back to Korea with me. Be my wife. Let me spend the rest of my life making you happy and showing you that you're worth everything. Lily looked at Ji-hoon kneeling there, holding the ring, his eyes full of love and hope and determination. She thought about her grandmother who had always told her that true love was worth fighting for. She thought about the 3 months they had spent together, the happiest time of her whole life. She thought about the future they could have. Not a perfect one, but a real one, full of love and adventure and challenges they would face together. She thought about how empty her life had felt since leaving Korea, how colors seemed duller, how food had no taste, how nothing brought her joy. Yes, Lily whispered, then louder. Yes, yes, I'll marry you. The whole bookstore erupted in applause and cheers. Ji-hoon slipped the ring onto Lily's finger. It fit perfectly, like it was made for her. Then stood up and pulled her into his arms, lifting her off her feet. They kissed deeply, passionately, a kiss that said everything words couldn't express. I'm sorry. I forgive you. I love you. I choose you. Forever. When they finally pulled apart, both of them were laughing and crying at the same time, holding each other like they would never let go again. I have something for you too, Ji-hoon said, pulling out Lily's grandmother's ring from his pocket. He had it professionally cleaned and set on a delicate gold chain. I want you to keep this. It's precious. Just like you. Just like our love. It represents where you come from. Who raised you. The strength in your blood. He clasped the necklace around her neck, and Lily touched the ring hanging over her heart, feeling its familiar weight, feeling like a piece of herself had been returned. 3 months later, they had 2 weddings. One in Korea with Ji-hoon's family, business associates, and the cream of Korean society. A massive traditional ceremony that made headlines across Asia. And one in Atlanta with Lily's family and friends, a smaller, intimate ceremony in her aunt's backyard with soul food and sweet tea and her grandmother's favorite hymns. Both ceremonies were beautiful, but Ji-hoon and Lily agreed their favorite part was the private moment they shared afterward, just the two of them holding hands in a quiet room, promising to love each other through everything life would throw at them. Promising to choose each other every single day. They moved into a beautiful house in Seoul, not Ji-hoon's cold penthouse, but a warm home in a quieter neighborhood, filled with Lily's books and photos of both their families and the sound of laughter and music. They decorated it together, blending Korean and American styles, creating something unique that belonged to both of them. Lily got a job teaching at an international school that was thrilled to hire someone with her experience and passion. Ji-hoon started coming home early from work, delegating more to Min-seok, prioritizing time with his wife over business meetings and power plays. On weekends, they would cook together. Lily teaching Ji-hoon how to make proper southern fried chicken, while he taught her the secrets of perfect kimchi. They would watch movies, take walks in the park, visit temples, and make plans for their future. The media attention was intense at first. There were headlines about Korea's most eligible bachelor marrying a foreign teacher, speculation about her motives, cruel comments about her appearance and background. But Ji-hoon handled it with ruthless efficiency, making it very clear through his lawyers and his connections that anyone who disrespected his wife would face consequences. And slowly, as people saw how happy they were, as they saw Lily's genuine kindness and Ji-hoon's obvious devotion, the narrative changed. They became a symbol of modern love, of breaking barriers, of choosing happiness over tradition. 2 years later, they had their first baby. A beautiful daughter with Lily's brown eyes and Ji-hoon's nose and cheekbones. They named her Grace Ji-hoon Park, after both Lily's grandmother Grace and Ji-hoon's mother Ji-hoon. As Ji-hoon held his tiny daughter in his arms for the first time, with Lily sleeping peacefully in the hospital bed recovering from delivery, he thought about that rainy night when he had found a crying woman on a balcony. He thought about how one moment of kindness, one genuine conversation, one real connection had changed his entire life. "Thank you," he whispered to Lily even though she was asleep, tears running down his face as he looked at his daughter. "Thank you for running away because it made me realize what I could lose. Thank you for coming back. Thank you for choosing me. Thank you for teaching me that the best things in life aren't things at all. Thank you for being my home, for making me human again, for saving me from a life without love." And as the sun rose over Seoul, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold, Ji-hoon knew that this was just the beginning of their forever. There would be challenges ahead, cultural differences to navigate, prejudices to overcome, hard days and disagreements. His world would always have shadows in it, dangers that he would need to protect his family from. But they would face it all together, hand in hand, heart to heart. Two people from completely different worlds who had found their home in each other. Because that's what real love is. Not a fairy tale with no problems, not a story where everything is perfect and easy, but a choice to keep choosing each other every single day, no matter what obstacles appear, no matter what the world says, no matter how hard it gets. And Ji-hoon and Lily chose each other, every single day, forever. Did this story touch your heart? If you believe in love that crosses all boundaries, that breaks all rules, that refuses to give up, hit that subscribe button right now and ring the notification bell so you never miss another story like this. Share this with someone who needs to hear that true love is real and worth fighting for, worth sacrificing for, worth everything. Comment below and tell me, would you chase love across the world like Ji-hoon did? Would you take the risk like Lily did? Drop a heart emoji if you're rooting for couples who refuse to let the world tell them they don't belong together. And remember, the best love stories are the ones where two people choose each other every single day, despite everything trying to pull them apart. Until next time, keep believing in love that conquers all.